Hello and good evening. I hope you're all doing really well. This is StreamYard, so if you wanted to leave any comments or say hello, usually you just have to give StreamYard permission and then I'll be able to see your comments. So I hope you can see me okay. I was due to go live on my laptop and then spilt tea on it, so I'm going live from my phone and hopefully you can see me. My screen's just gone grey, but hopefully I'm still in colour for you. So if you've landed on this webinar this evening, then you've probably been drawn to how I've explained this session. I've spoken a little bit about feeling exhausted. So if you are at the moment feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, like you're trudging through water, like you just can't get your mojo back and you're just like then beating yourself up about it. Does that sound familiar? Hi, Sean, lovely, welcome. If that sounds familiar, then I don't want you to beat yourself up for that, okay? Number one, it's because we have been going collectively through a lot of stuff this year, right? On a global level. So you've been carrying around a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty. You know, your eating habits have probably gone out of the window. And trust me, we are all guilty of this. But what happens is over time, you can build into something that is known as adrenal fatigue. And this is something that I had years ago, and it does raise its head every now and then. So there's two different types of symptoms, actually. It's not just exhaustion, like it sounds like. There's a pre part before you actually crash. And this exhaustion is what is as a result of being overwhelmed. So just let me know if any of this sounds familiar to you, if you can actually type into the comments. And I want you to know that you can ask me questions anytime as well. So what are the symptoms of adrenal fatigue then? As I've mentioned, a lot of them already. Fatigue, exhaustion, overwhelm, anxiety, not being able to get going. It's things like having a coffee and it not actually lifting you, not actually waking you up. It's not being able to sleep at night, for example. Insomnia is one of them. It's craving sugar, it's craving salty foods, it's all sorts of things like this. There's a difference between feeling tired and lethargic and adrenal fatigue. So when you're feeling tired, it's usually in the eyes and you just feel tired, right? But adrenal fatigue is where, the only way I can describe it is if you're you're wanting to make a cup of tea, you're wanting to make dinner, but you just can't. You feel ill, but there's no symptoms as such. There's no evidence coming back from the doctors why you're feeling ill, but you're just tired all the time. It's like you're wading through water, right? It's like everything just feels really slow. Okay, this is adrenal fatigue. So it actually builds over, it can be a course of weeks, it can be months, or it can even be years. So mine certainly was built over years of very stressful things. Some of them you'll relate to, some of them you won't. But stress knows no kind of differentiation. So whether it's psychological stress, emotional stress, physical stress, that's surgery, that's pregnancy, that's menopause, perimenopause, it's chemical stress, is environmental stress. Everything that builds up is something that I call the straw that breaks the camel's back. And this is a whole full hour webinar that I'm doing on the 22nd of November. It's free. If you want to join me on that one, I'll be talking to you a little bit more about my own personal journey with this. And there is such a thing as the straw that breaks the camel's back. So what happens is, and I've got a couple of diagrams here because I find that things visually really help me to understand what I'm talking about. Things build up over time. So hopefully this is not back to front, but apologies if it is. Let's just say that this is a neutral level. This is high stress. And this is super high stress, okay? And then here is relaxation. So if you're on your neutral level and you have a little bit of stress, generally that comes down, even into here, and then we tend to go back up again, and it's the waves, isn't it? Now, a lot of us have been experiencing over these last few months is this high level of stress for a long period of time without any respite. And even when we think we've had respite, it comes down, and then we think, oh, we're okay now. But we've been so used to this type of stress that we think this is relaxation. So one of the symptoms of having adrenal fatigue pre and post crash is inability to relax. So it's when you're You just think, oh, why can't I just get off my phone? Why can't I just do something relaxing? Why does everything have to be go, go, go? And trust me, I relate to this. So at the end of this session today, we're not doing a super long one, because if you do have adrenal fatigue or anxiety, then I know that I can't hold your attention for long, and that's absolutely fine. But I do want to do a little meditation with you at the end just to help you relax. And you can either do that live with me or you can come back to it another time. So for me, this high stress went on for a long time with very little respite. Now, what we actually want to do in reality is balance our high level of stress or being busy with the same amount in the opposite direction. So let's just say, for example, you've just had a big block of high stress. Now, in an ideal world, you would want to mirror that with a big block of relaxation or a rest. Do we do that? I think you'll agree with me. We do not. We try our best, but we might have a big period of stress and then a tiny bit if we're lucky. Now, I know in a lot of cases, we can blame our circumstances, we can blame our situation, and we can blame the people around us, and we can even blame ourselves. But true peace, happiness, and empowerment comes from when you actually take a stance and you start to shift things in your life that are causing you barriers to doing this. So that means new decisions, new choices. I know that's not always easy, but a big part of healing through this is actually building your self-esteem and deciding what your boundaries are and what you actually deserve. So your self-care around this is something highly important. So sometimes in situations, you might have a period of long stress. It may be high, medium stress, high stress. And I know, I get it. Sometimes we simply can't. It can be whatever circumstances. It can be somebody grieving. You might be grieving yourself, or somebody might be terribly ill. And we find it hard to put in that time. But what we can do is look forward to know that we might have a big, long area of relaxation or rest. Now, it's up to you to actually schedule that in. If you know that you're not good at doing this, you actually need to schedule it in like any other appointment until it becomes a kind of habit for you. So the purpose of this little diagram here is just to give you that kind of visual that whatever happens, whether this is a week, a few months that have gone by, or years that have gone by, it could also represent a whole day. So in the morning, if you have a high stress, you want to balance it with a little bit of a break. Then a little bit of stress through your working day, you want to relax in the evening. You also want to be cancelling things that are just causing you too much tension, stress, and anxiety. And that all comes down to saying no. Okay, and that is a whole other topic because I know how difficult that can be. It's kind of a guilt, and often it's not about saying no to other people. It's about that relationship with yourself and saying no. So that's how adrenal fatigue builds. And as it sounds, it's when your adrenals have kind of reached their limit, that you've just been pushing and pushing and pushing, and finally that straw breaks the camel's back, and then you are depleted. There is no fuel left in the tank. Okay, and I have been there. 6 years ago, I was at my worst, and it was at the point where I knew that nutrition was important. I knew that food was important in my healing, but I couldn't actually go to the shops and buy food. I couldn't even think of what needed to be bought. I couldn't even do online shopping. Everything just felt really difficult. So over the years, I've kind of got to know a naturopathic doctor very, very well, and learned lots more about nutrition and how to heal myself from the body side, because I knew so much about the mind. And for me, it was like closing the gap of the knowledge of how to heal myself. I kept telling myself it's mind over matter. You just need to be motivated. Now, there's a difference between when you need to listen to the mind to move through something, but the mind can actually be a foe as it can be a friend as well. Sometimes it's not mind over matter. Sometimes it's body over mind. And we only get to know the difference between this when we get to know ourselves better, because nobody else can tell you. It's only up to you to kind of figure out what's going on in your body. So I always say to people, be your own guru. Put the pieces of your own puzzle together and figure it out from there. But what I can say is there is a way, there is a process that you can work through, and it's twofold. One is the body and one is the mind. And those are the tips that I want to give you today. So the one thing that I want to mention before I explain my tips is that, like I say, the obvious symptom is fatigue. But when you are pre-crash, you might actually feel that you've got loads of energy. You might be like a superwoman or superman. And that is because, generally speaking, you're kind of living off your adrenal glands, and it feels like you're hyped up, and that adrenaline can actually feel like it's superpowering you, and it can even get addictive. So you're going to be hanging around in this area for a little bit longer, which is why it doesn't feel comfortable to relax. So sometimes it's not that it's the mind that's stopping you relaxing, it's that you've got too much cortisol in the body. So how do we get the cortisol out of the body? This is the stress hormone. You see, once you've got some hormones that are imbalanced, it's going to impact all your other hormones, your sex hormones, your reproductive hormones, and everything else. So we have to think of a way to get the cortisol out. So this is my third and final diagram, just to explain to you how to do this. I call it my stress tank. So this plus side is obviously all the good things, all the good hormones. So it's our oxytocin, our dopamine, our serotonin, our endorphins from exercise, our serotonin, and dopamine from sense of achievement, oxytocin for the love, the happy hormone, when you're laughing at things. Your things that you put in your tank are going to be different to what I put in mine, but there are some general tips as well that I'm going to go through. Danny, you've said this could not be resonating with me more. It's so interesting. You're absolutely, yeah. I'm just so happy to be sharing this, because this is something that I was kind of in the dark about for a really long time. I spent many years checking with the doctors and seeing what the hell's wrong with me. And it kept coming back clear, which is amazing. I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, I was just left confused, because deep inside of me, I thought, yeah, but I shouldn't be this tired. And at one point, I actually thought, I'm going to give up. I've spent years exploring this, and I still don't know what's going on. I must just be like that. I'm not like everybody else. I need my naps in the afternoon. I can't stay up late. I can't drink so much because it impacts me. And the more I learned, the more I understood what was going on. And that's why I've teamed up with Gabby, who's the naturopathic doctor, to kind of share this in a way that is very simple. Because what I found when I was on my journey is that anytime I tried to learn about it, it's so complex and detailed and medical that I just couldn't get my head around it, because one big symptom of adrenal fatigue is brain fog, is forgetfulness. So no, you're not going mad. This is what's happening because of all the different cortisol in the body. Danny, you've mentioned, literally had my third clear blood test last week. Exactly. So what's happening there is the doctors are trained obviously for years, but there's only so much that you can learn about the body in that time. So what they're trained to do is look at the most extreme cases. Okay, so you could just be 1 point before something that's chronic, an issue, something that needs to be tackled, but it wouldn't be coming up on your test results. The second thing is that we also only have a certain amount of time with the doctor. So it's one symptom, one appointment. Whereas actually, you want to be looking at the system holistically. And if you were doing that, looking at the mind, your emotions, the type of person you are, your Ayurvedic constitution, for those of you who know about Ayurvedic in terms of yoga, because I'm also a yoga teacher, so I incorporate that, then you know that spicy foods are not good for everybody, for example. So the more you learn about yourself, the more you know how to treat yourself. And it generally does come down to this, because it's not widely recognized by the medical community because of those reasons. So you have to kind of figure it out yourself. But there are other ways to test your cortisol. There is a saliva test that you can do, and that's what I'm helping people to have access to, without having to spend lots and lots of money to see someone one-to-one, because this information can be quite generic. So I can give generic advice, but at the same time, if you want to go independent, you can find somebody that can do that one-to-one. Jane, you've also said this is you. It's nice to see you here, lovely. So yeah, coming back to this then, it's a case of how do we get more of that happy stuff in and build that higher to bring down the cortisol. So this is the stress tank. So think of this as you're going through your day. If your stress has just risen, then you have to be thinking, hang on a second, no, that can't be going higher than this side, otherwise I'm going to get fatigued. So you have to think, right, in this moment, what can I do to bring something happy, something calming, something soothing into my life? And that is where things like breathing, yoga, all these kind of things can be instantaneously bringing those stress hormones down. There's all sorts of things, though. It doesn't even have to be something that's taking half an hour or an hour. It can be a small thing. It can just be stepping outside with your favorite cuppa and just breathing the air. That can bring your stress hormones down as well. There's obviously so much that I want to share with you on this because it is quite a big subject. If you are interested, then I do have that free webinar that's probably about an hour long that will be recorded on replay for a week afterwards, which is more about my story and how I got to that stage and some more tips. But for now, I want to share with you some tips that you can actually start doing today to help you. And as I said, I'm going to tackle this on the one side from the body and on the other side from the mind. So when it comes to the body, and this is all the stuff that I've been learning over the last few years, one big tip is something called Sole. So I'm not sure if you've heard of this before. Sole, spelled S-O-L-E. So if you ever wanted to recap on that on Google, it's a very, very simple recipe. As you can see, hopefully if it is in colour, because mine is black and white, this is pink. So it's Himalayan rock salt, which is at the bottom here, diffused in water, and it's potent enough that you can still see some crystals at the bottom here. What you do is in the morning, you get your large glass of water and some lemon. I put lemon juice in. It's not for everybody. I put quite a bit of lemon in. And you put a teaspoon of the water, not the salt itself, just the pink water. Now, some people might think, well, that's going to taste disgusting. If it does taste disgusting for you, then it might not be that you need the salt, okay? We've been taught along the years that salt's no good for us, but actually a lot of us are missing certain types of salt. And the Himalayan rock salt has, I think, 85 minerals in there that we're lacking, especially if you've got adrenal fatigue, because you struggle to hold on to minerals and vitamins, and there's usually a deficiency. So right from the beginning of the day, you can set that into balance. Now, if you can't taste the salt at all, you actually might need more. So this is about listening to the body and trusting the body. So that is Sole. If you're really fatigued, you might want another one at the sort of mid-afternoon, because the symptoms of adrenal fatigue is that you can't get going until about 10 or 11 in the morning. You don't feel awake even after a long night's sleep, regardless if you did have a sleep. A lot of you will probably have insomnia as well. Once you get going, around 2-3 o'clock, you have a big crash, probably crave sugar and caffeine, which actually feeds into the negative cycle, which I'll talk to you about on the 22nd. And then you sort of rely on the stimulants to get you going. You have another crash, and then it goes around like that. So the other thing is to increase more protein. So I have this vegan pea protein that I add into mine. I have, again, 1 in the morning, especially if I'm fatigued, and often 2 if I'm really bad. And with that, I add in some essential oils, not essential oils aromatherapy, although they are very good for adrenal fatigue, but I add in some flaxseed, I add in chia seeds, those oils that we actually need for our body to function properly. And then I add prebiotics and probiotics, which is one of them here. That's for your gut health. I'm sure you've heard loads about gut health, and that is a whole other subject as well. I'm putting together an adrenal fatigue bundle, which is an online course. Actually, you work yourself through it in your own time, and I'll be talking a lot more about this kind of content as we go along. And just things like, quick tips, because sometimes you just want to be reminded, or you just need a little bit of inspiration to keep going on this journey, and that you're not alone. But again, the adrenal fatigue bundle is a whole other story, but I just wanted to focus on a couple of those things. So the other things to mention is an adaptogen herb called ashwagandha. Now this, when I found out about ashwagandha, I was like, this is amazing. The plant world is amazing. And this is where I met Gabby. I met her on a Herbs for Health course. And Louise, one of the owners of the Body Tree, is a qualified nutritionist. So she's got so much advice that she can give you on this as well. But what I found out about the adaptogen herb is that amazingly, whether you've got too much cortisol, which is usually before the crash when you're hyper, or you've not got enough, which is after the crash when you can't get moving, ashwagandha actually works with your unique body system to get you really in balance, regardless of which scale you're on. How amazing is that? I mean, that's just crazy. So that's ashwagandha. I would recommend that as well. You have it in like a drink format in the powder. Leafy greens, dark leafy greens, and there's more. So your vitamin B complex, lots more vitamin C, more than you think. Spread it out throughout the day and have some at night time as well. And vitamin D, especially now. So you might be feeling extra fatigued because of the seasonal change that we're in right now. That's the body. Now the mind side, and I think that yoga bridges the gap between the mind and the body really nicely on this one. If you are fatigued, I would recommend taking a yoga class that is of a gentle variety, so yin yoga or beginner's yoga, even if you're advanced, or a gentle healing yoga. So I actually have a free, I know that the Body Tree has all these different options, and you can build back to a more stronger yoga at another time. But I'm doing a free class on Monday night in my Inspire Rewires tribe group. I don't teach yoga that often anymore, but it's something that I like to show people, to be reminded that gentle yoga with a little bit of subliminal affirmations, because I'm a hypnotherapist as well. So I drop in there some good stuff for the mind. That's why I see it as a bridge between the body and the mind stuff. By doing gentle yoga and breathing, you're allowing your nervous system to relax. You're calming that hectic mind down, and you're allowing your hormones then to rebalance. This is what yoga is all about. It's not just the physical practice, it's what it's doing for the systems, it's the cleansing, it's the philosophy. I've got online courses for that as well. I've got the chakra series, I've got going deeper into yoga philosophy, which is a journaling course. If you're ever interested in them, just let me know. So yoga. So I've got a free class on Monday night at 8 p.m. just for you to try that. And then maybe when you come back to the Body Tree, you'll know which kind of yoga you can try for yourself, a gentle one if you like that. Even if you've never done gentle yoga before, it's worth a try. So that's one thing that I would recommend. I do mini retreats though, and weekend retreats. Those are the stuff that I still do in person, but they're every kind of month or every few months when it's a weekend retreat. But if you did want to know more about it, my website is inspire-rewire.com. I'll just add that on the end as well. So other things, so I'm an NLP practitioner as well. That stands for neuro-linguistic programming, and it's all about looking for patterns in the mind. So sometimes we can be our biggest hurdle in our own healing. That's why I said about saying no to other people, but also saying no to yourself. I completely resonate with this because I get so excited about all the different projects that I'm working on. Now I find like my mission, or as they say in yoga, my dharma. And it's hard actually, because sometimes I have to put those projects on hold because I simply can't do it all. And whenever I try to do it all, that's when I crash and burn. I'm just getting a little bit more familiar with my own red flags when I recognize that I've started to burn out. So it's not about being perfect, but it's just about learning more about yourself and applying different things, understanding what your red flags are, listening to what Gabby calls the body whispers. So if you're getting aches and pains or discomfort or fatigue or stress in your body is trying to tell you something. It's just really hard to listen. We tend to ignore it, don't we? And then we crash. And also there's the niggles of the mind. So if things, they get louder, they start off as a gentle tap, and then it becomes like a knock, and then it's like a banging on your door, and then you end up crashing anyway. So if you don't stop, if you don't press pause, your body will make you do it anyway, or your mind will do it for you. I tend to have a breakdown, and I usually say a breakdown is a breakthrough. I have that whole tension release, I have some clarity, and then I'm like, I've done it again. But each time it gets easier, and I get to know myself more, and I'm living more and more in the now and in the moment. It's baby steps. So whenever you set off in any kind of goal, and that is including a healing journey, It's not about kind of looking at way into the future and overwhelming yourself. Otherwise, we procrastinate or we start and then we feel like we failed because we keep having these setbacks. But setbacks are all part of the journey. Okay. So moving a little bit each day is better than not doing anything at all. And it's also better than doing too much where you would crash and burn or procrastinate. So before we go into a little bit of just some breathing, just to calm down, and I'm also going to go intuitively with this one and maybe add some messages, some affirmations in there with some subtle hypno. Just let me know if you've got any questions as I'm going along through this, and I will always respond to your questions as well afterwards. So if you're watching this on replay, that's absolutely fine. I will still reply to you. So as I'm waiting for anything to pop up, what I would say is just get somewhere comfortable. I think at this point, maybe we'll just stay seated, because that way you can really use the expanse of your lungs. You've got your spine straight, so you've got the Sushumna energy up and down the spine, moving freely. Your Ida and Pingala, the masculine and feminine energies, moving freely. You can also really open out into your belly as you inhale and expand. So let's just start by rolling the shoulders, inhaling up, back, and then exhale. Let's do that again. Inhaling up, maybe a little pause of the breath, and then exhale. So lots of cracking maybe. Try not to judge that. There's definitely more tension in the body when you're feeling fatigued, but that's why we're here. We're here to heal. Let's do another one. Deep breath. So we're only going to spend a few minutes here before I leave you into your evening. So just place your hands on your belly. Let's do the yogic breath, and one hand on the chest if you like. We're breathing in and expanding the belly, then the chest, and then releasing chest and belly. Now, if you're feeling a little anxious today, don't worry about focusing on this. Just breathe in whatever pace feels right for you, or even focus on something completely different. Otherwise, we're just breathing in and out. And just let the face soften as you're continuing to breathe in and out. If you want to breathe out through your mouth rather than your nose, it's absolutely fine. Sometimes it feels a real good relief to blow out through the mouth. So if you want to try that, let's do that together. Inhaling. Just blow it all the way, all that tension, all that confusion and frustration. And again. All that blame and all that trying, all that beating yourself up. Let's do it again. Inhaling. Breathing normally. The next one we're going to do is a sigh out through the mouth. And just like a mantra, like the mantra Om, or even singing, anything that we do like this tones the vagus nerve as well. That's that connection between the mind and the gut. So it's really good for your gut health, which in turn is good for your immunity and therefore your energy. So we're going to do 3 sighs as well. So inhaling. Again. One more time. Breathing normally with your eyes closed. Tension seems to hover around the face. So let's see if you can bring excuse me. neutral expression to your face. Taking out the stress. Releasing any expression. Relaxing the jaw. Smoothing out the forehead. Dropping those shoulders. You can even take your hands up towards your hairline, rubbing into the hair, across the forehead, eyebrows, and the jaw. If the jaw feels tender, and there could be some grinding there, maybe in your sleep, so just release that without judgment and relax again. You say to yourself, I accept exactly where I am. I know that there's a better way to be, and I will find myself there in my own time. I take baby steps, gentle learning, gentle applying, and I take care of my body and my mind. I feed myself nourishing food. I rest when my body is weary. I release all guilt around that. Now, seeing if you can breathe in for the count of 4 and exhale for the count of 8. And this simple breath brings oxytocin into the body, which reduces any stress. So counting in for 4 and out for 8, or as long as you can manage, as long as it's a little longer than the inhale. Allowing yourself to rest, allowing yourself to be. No intention, with no goal, just enjoying that silence inside, that stillness. Strengthening your nervous system, your hormone system, releasing tension from your muscles, peace to your mind. In a moment, I'll be slowly counting you back from 1 to 3. By the time I get to 3, you'll be feeling calmer, more confident in your journey to healing, to finding the jigsaw puzzles of you, to trust your body, trust your mind. Beginning with 1. starting to come round now with 2. And with 3, connecting fingers and toes, blinking the eyes open, taking a deep breath and release. I apologise, I had a tickle in my throat the whole time, which gave me eyes watering and a wobbly voice. So I hope you still found some peace even though that was going on. And I hope that you enjoyed this session. I'll drop some links in later for the webinar that's coming up and other bits that you might be interested in. And for now, I'll just pop my website on there for you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I will see you again soon. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.